Hello everyone! Today it is time for me to talk about the challenge Final Reckoning, and this is definitely a season. Obviously, we have the continuation of the Big Brother people being added, as well as the continuation of the UK people as well. But what also isn't really discussed is the people who are on X on the Beach 1 is added here as well, like an Angela, Faith, I guess Polly too, but obviously he represents Big Brother. So that was happening a lot during these first few Era 4 seasons, and it definitely kind of made up for the fact that there were no more real world people coming in. Are the One was pretty much dead by this point in time, as they weren't casting people from the last few seasons. And Big Brother proved to be a hit when it comes to the casting, despite a lot of people not liking it, so they continued with that. We have a lot of Era 3 people on the cast, since obviously a lot of the people who are from late Era 3 kind of came back here and they made their presence known on this season. And I do think that this season is the last of its kind, since after this season, which had a heavy focus on drama, there was a slow shift to make it more competition focused with the world season, and then it just continued to what we have now, which really just isn't good. So from a competition standpoint and a formatting point of view, especially with the format, this season is the absolute worst. So, one, we have mixed pairings. So we have male-male pairings, female-female pairings, and male-female pairings, which is just really ridiculous. Some of the equalizers that they decided to use to micromanage this just really just did not work at all. Obviously, the male-male teams will have more of an advantage on the physical challenges, and it really just wasn't balanced and was a mess at all. We also had the Redemption House twist, which was even worse here than it was on 3030. Not only did we have 4 rounds of redemption, which was just way too long, but a lot of people didn't even have the chance to compete, since once you pull the double cross, you get to choose one other person that you get to compete against, and whomever isn't chosen, whether they didn't choose the double cross or they weren't chosen by the double crossers, they go home like that. Obviously, this caused for the newer Big Brother people to last a lot longer in the season than they otherwise would have been. They all would have been early outs. And we obviously had Natalie and Polly making it to the final despite losing 3 eliminations. Jose and Davon lasting a lot longer despite them being in that initial purge. And we also had people like Chuck, who literally did nothing but lay in a grave. CT got sent home early despite not being in an elimination or competing in a redemption. So all of that just kind of sucked. We also had mercenaries. Not only were they not normal mercenaries where they played and then they went home, we had mercenaries who were fighting for their spots to come in, where we had Ashley and Hunter coming in damn near halfway in the middle of the season. Then we had Corey and Devin coming in a very suspicious elimination. 3/4 in the season. That really just threw things off, and it was just a clusterfuck. And it wasn't fun to watch. It's really hard to analyze from a gameplay point of view. Despite all of that, I do think the cast is very strong. I think all the rookies had their moments in the season that makes them very memorable personality-wise, and some even competitively. Obviously, Polly and to a lesser extent, Davon would be the ones who would really establish themselves on the challenge and be consistent with the show up until today. We had a lot of the dynamics from Vendettas carry over into this season, which was great from a continuity point of view. We had the Lavender Ladies fighting with Bananas and Cara Maria. That was great. Tony was kind of forced to be on that side as well. Same thing with Marie due to their partners. And it's drama galore. There are so many fights happening in every single episode, and the drama is very, very memorable and notable. It was a mix of personal drama and competitive drama, and it was just really fun to watch. Though, not a lot of them are very likable, and it gets very draining at times. At the same time, this is the season that has the longest episode count, since there are 20 episodes here, and it's really just a lot. And what makes it even worse is that this was the peak of the cliffhangers and the TV continues, which was just annoying to watch. And people got tired of it this season, especially where they changed it from every season forward, where they stopped doing that. So overall, my opinions on this season is all over the place. There's a lot of good, but a lot of bad as well. This is the season that was pushing the trilogy stuff that no one knew existed during the last two seasons, and Final Reckoning is the final season in the trilogy. Half of the cast arrives to South Africa, where they are told that they're going to be partnered with their enemies throughout the season. So it's essentially Rivals 4 without the title. And the first daily of the season is the opening challenge, where they have to dig out their partner from a grave, and they can only communicate with their partner through a walkie-talkie. Zach digs out his partner, who happens to be Amanda, and they end up winning the daily. And I don't remember them having an actual issue on the show, but they're holding onto her talking about Jenna hooking up with Bruno on Invasions as a reason for their feud, despite not pairing her and Jenna together, which would have made more sense. We have more commentary on Jenna and Zach being back together, and she is bragging about tricking him into getting back with her, which is just so desperate. And this happened after Temps vs. Stars. Nelson digs out Shane based on their issues on Invasion. Natalie and Polly are partners due to their infamous fight on Big Brother 18. Cara Maria digs at Marie due to Cara Maria tweeting that Marie should not be back on the show. They're going through the pairs, digging one another out. So I'm going to go through the pairs, or the partners, quickly. Sylvia and Josh are partners due to him nominating her last season. Cam and Melissa are partners due to their fight last season. The same thing with Kayla and Kaylee. Angela and Faith are partners due to feuding on X on the Beach. Tori and Derek are exes who ended badly, as we all know from Dirty 30. Veronica and CT are partners, which really comes out of nowhere. Jenna and Jamie are struggling to communicate, and it's the same with Brittany, who's communicating with her ex Chuck, where they dated for 2 years and he cheated on her. And obviously, Jenna and Jamie are paired due to that whole double cross thing in the beginning of Dirty 30. Jose and Devon are partners, which is weird, since they didn't have issues, but they're mentioning her snaking him on Big Brother 18 as some beef, which... honestly, her being partnered with Polly or even a Frank would have made more sense than Jose. Anyways, the last two teams are booted, which ends up being Jenna and Jamie and Chuck and Brittany. And in addition to that, Zach and Jenna aren't happy about her going home, since one of them always goes home first on the seasons that they do together, since exes apparently, and Brad isn't happy about Brittany going home. Johnny Bananas is still in the grave, and he is safe from the purge, where someone else is coming for him eventually. What happened is that Devin flew out with the entire cast down to South Africa and is planning to be partners with Bananas, which makes sense after last season, but his father passed away, so he flew back home. Amanda and Zach also have the chance to choose someone else to go home, and they choose Jose and Devon to go home, since they were third last and they are rookies, which will continue with the two of them just picking on them throughout the season. Devon calls them out for making a pussy move, but the three pairs aren't going home at all, but we'll get to that later on. TJ also mentions that the price went up to $1 million again, which was that for Dirty 30, then it went down on Vendettas. Everyone arrives to the house, and Shane is arguing with Angela about the closet, and Angela is showing her ass in front of everyone, where Shane makes fun of her plastic surgery in his confessionals. Nelson is annoyed that Shane picked a fight already, and the tension would continue throughout the season between the two of them. Polly and Natalie are talking through their issues from Big Brother, and he wants her to tell him about her issues with people from Vendettas, where she's enemies with Bananas and Kaylee. Josh and Amanda are flirting with one another already, and it's clear that they're going to hook up, especially since the entire house is essentially pushing for them to kiss. Faith and Angela make up from their issues on X on the beach, and there's still tension with Cara Maria and Cal, where he bailed on her after visiting her in Boston, where her family lives, but Faith is eyeing him, and the two of them make out on the first night. The three eliminated players arrive to what is the Redemption House, and Jenna feels confident that she survived, or she feels confident because she survived the last Redemption House. So it'll be the same for her this season. TG tells them that not everyone in the Redemption House will have a chance to get into the house, or to play for a chance to get into the house, but they can observe the cast in the house through the camera room. Jenna doesn't trust Jemmy after the latter snacked her on Dirty 30, and Jemmy still really doesn't give a fuck. So, back at the main house, Tori and Derek are still talking about what happened with Jordan, and he really doesn't want to go back there, and she's giving him advice, where she knows that he is weak mentally. Cara Maria overhears that Cal made up with Faith, and the two of them have an awkward conversation. She moves on to flirting with Polly, who has a girlfriend, and it is the person that he would have a very public scandal with Cara Maria in a year or so in an awkward triangle. And he was not calling her a filet mignon then as he is at this point on Final Reckoning. In his confessional, Cara Maria is wrapping herself around Polly and she wants to use him to make Cal jealous or to go back to his boring relationship. This is so fucking pathetic and cringe to watch as she's trying to give him strategic advice, which is to fuck her, essentially. And it's also ironic because she was also bitching about what Tony did on Dirty 30. But look at what we have here. We see a bunch of people are in the bedroom, and we see Kayla and Kaylee talking about their issues last season and how they said awful stuff to one another that won't be resolved in 5 minutes. Kaylee mentions the rumor came from someone in the house about Kayla supposedly cheating with Tony, and Kayla is pissed off about the rumor that Kaylee and Melissa said about her cheating on her boyfriend with Tony. Melissa overhears her name and she joins the conversation where Kayla mentions that she doesn't want to talk to her as she doesn't respect Melissa for trying to ruin people's personal lives. Melissa says that she wants to clear the air, but she's saying it very aggressively and mentions that she tweeted what she heard while also tagging Kayla's boyfriend in the tweet. Kayla tells her to leave the room several times. Melissa gets in her face, Kayla pushes her, and then Melissa goes after her. And the two of them are literally fighting one another, and they have to be split up, where Kayla's eye is fucked up. Kayla speaks to Shane about what happened the next morning, and Johnny tells Kayla that both of them played a part in it, and she needs to stop playing the victim. And he's absolutely right about this. Melissa speaks to Cam about what happened, and Kaylee mentions that they both hit one another, so the four of them could be sent home. TJ arrives to the house to tell Kayla and Melissa that they are both getting DQ'd. And they are in the clothes that they did their photo shoot for the season on, but luckily Cam and Kaylee become pairs while their partners go home. Kayla and Melissa were really dumb to get into this fight, especially on the first night. Apparently they were not planning to send them home, but Kayla was pushing that she wanted Melissa to go home very hard. Allegedly, she wanted lawyers to get involved and production didn't want them problems, so the both of them were sent home. Anyways, both of them will be on a few seasons break after this, and it's deserved. Anyways, Cam and Kaylee are partners, which is the best case scenario for them, especially since they became lifelong friends, though Cam is worried about Kaylee cracking under pressure, since that's what she saw of her last season. The Redemption House players are shown the clip of Kayla and Melissa fighting, so they are out of the game. We see them go watch some of the selective footage in the surveillance room a few times in the season. Clearly, Jenna isn't happy with this since her good friend Kayla is gone. Polly and Cara Maria are talking about Batman, Joker, and wearing Justice League costumes, which makes so much sense since they've done stuff like that and they've posted it all over their social media over the years with their cosplaying and stuff. Brad is speaking to Cara Maria and Polly about hating his partner, and Cara Maria considers Brad a good friend, so this is a conflicting situation, though that might have changed based on how things elevate throughout the season. Bananas is speaking to Faith about who his partner could be, and Shane is talking about Johnny having no numbers this season, which he is definitely going to take advantage of. Natalie tries to have a conversation with Johnny, since she is annoyed that he isn't even attempting to have a conversation, where she is mad at him and he's annoyed with her unfollowing him on social media, and this is the second time they fell out, according to him. Polly talks in the confessional about how Natalie causes drama and she plays the victim, and honestly he's correct about this, so he doesn't like being partnered with her in that sense. Natalie is talking about being in a relationship with a woman, where she talks about being pansexual, and she talks about Kaylee outing her as a lesbian on Instagram, where she didn't even tell her family members yet, so she's still holding on to that. Shane talks about his feud with Kyle on social media and bashes him for his hair plugs. Polly is feeling a way about Kyle trying to manipulate Cara Maria, and he talks about watching her on the show regarding being a badass and how that is withered away. And that's kind of ironic since a lot of people say that Polly did that to Cara Maria, but we'll get there when we get there. Marie ends up cheering Cara Maria up since she is tired of Cara Maria acting like she doesn't have any sort of feeling, which is, according to her, why they are vendettas. Cam and Natalie speak about how Natalie is going to target her because she hates Katie, and Natalie tells Cam that she isn't going to target her, and she's going to be honest this season. And it seems like this is set up for some of the issues that they have throughout the season. At the Redemption House, Jenna is trying to keep herself motivated with making it back into the house, but we do see Chuck and Brittany having it out. He apologizes to her for bailing on him after their 2-year relationship, but she's still holding onto some anger since she brought him onto the show, and they should have had this conversation without the cameras, which is pretty fair. She mentions that he is good at disappearing, and Devon is shading Brittany for being an actress, and Jamie mentions that they still have feelings for one another. It seems like Jamie and Jenna are trying to set Chuck and Brittany up to hook up again, despite Brad literally being in the house and on the season. At the main house, the cast is throwing a bunch of balloons at Angela, and it is a challenge tradition where we see a montage of it. But Angela is really pissed off about it and freaks the hell out about it, where she tells him to fuck off. And she tells him to leave the room, and she ends up causing a fight about it. Johnny thinks that she's attractive, so he is going to apologize to her, and I guess this is the setup of their showmance. Johnny's partner turned out to be Tony, and it's crazy that he wasn't on the original cast of the season, and he wasn't planned to be a mercenary this season either. And Johnny sees the move as a huge betrayal, and Tony wants to make his own mark in the game, and Bananas knows that Tony wants to be out of his shadow. The daily is Wreck Yourself, where they are on the platform. One person is the swinger and pusher, where the swinger has to grab rings to hand to the pusher, so the pair with the most rings wins the challenge. I actually do enjoy this daily, though they could get tangled, but luckily that didn't end up happening here. Kyle and Brad win the first ring, and we see Tori and Derek, mainly Derek, having a horrible performance, and she of course is pissed off. Tony and Bananas and Brad and Kyle are tied for first, as the latter were allowed to play in round 2. But Kyle and Brad win the entire daily, and Kyle is insistent on targeting Polly because he is jealous and is claiming that Polly is pretending to have a girlfriend. Cara Maria hates Faith because she is hooking up with Kyle and wants her gone. There's no last place going into elimination, which sucks and is something that Era 4 is definitely missing, as we will get into. Faith feels good because she's hooking up with Cal, and Derek speaks to Tori about understanding why she is mad at him, and she mentions that they look like a layup right now, and she still has a lot to prove since this is only her second season. Johnny Bananas reports to Brad and Cal about Polly saying that if he was thrown in, it would be due to the Cara Maria stuff, and Bananas mentions that he does feel bad for Polly, and it's interesting that he feels bad for him since things will change within the next few seasons. CT is claiming that Polly is putting a target on his back for this, and we have Brad, Kyle, and Polly speaking to one another, while Kyle does not appreciate Polly calling him a pussy, and Polly says that he said it in the context of him using Cara Maria being friends with him as a reason to send him in. Even though Kyle has told the entire house that he hates Shane, so that would make Kyle look worse. That's what Polly's trying to explain here. Amanda and Shane are talking about Cal's chin implants, which is pretty funny, and Cal still has them blocked on social media. But Shane is going to apologize to him, not because he is in power and Shane wants to stay safe. Not at all. Natalie and Cam are talking about Natalie potentially speaking to Kaylee, and Natalie is not over the outing situation. She was outed incorrectly, first of all, and she's been getting hate every day over it, which honestly sucks. And Cam mentions that she wasn't friends with Kaylee last season herself. Kaylee outed Natalie because the latter was more than fine with her getting hazed last season based on the lie of Kaylee hooking up with Bananas. Veronica talks about how she feels good with CT because he's a beast, but she knows that he's going to want her to perform well. CT talks about Veronica being Queen V/Queen B back in the day during the Inferno days, but she sees this as a vacation and doesn't give a fuck, which will continue to be a talking point with them throughout the season. Natalie rants to Polly and Cara Maria about how their situation will probably cause her to go home, and she says that Cal is hooking up with someone, so she doesn't see the issue with this, and I think Cara Maria is one who said that. Cara Maria mentions that she is only flirting with Polly to piss Cal off, and Cal admits that he would have still targeted Polly even if him and Cara Maria weren't friends, as I already knew, which obviously just makes sense. She is complaining about this to Brad to tell him to convince Cal to not make a dumb move, and Brad is stuck in a catch-22. Cal immediately jumps into Faith's bed to have sex, and Kaylee is yelling. It's funny as hell. Kaylee is in the bunk above them, and she's literally yelling and lecturing at him like he's a child who got caught by his mother having sex. And it's very funny because she told him not to do this, and she knows that Faith is mainly just politicking. Faith and Kadu have some very funny commentary about this in their confessionals. Angela and Bananas are flirting with one another, and he is using the same strategy he did with Natalie last season, and she's also using this for protection. Everyone is voting, and the daily winners get to vote, but they all get to vote in secret, supposedly. TG announces that the votes are going to be announced in the elimination, so everyone has to pack. Cara Maria and Marie were arguing about the vote, and Cara Maria rants to Natalie and Tony about what Marie did, and Marie walks in the room, calling Cara Maria out for making this dumb move and that she hates Cara Maria, throwing Marie under the bus, though she herself is also attached to Marie, so she's throwing herself under the bus. We move on to the Redemption House where there's a truth or dare, and Brittany is there to twerk on Chuck, and Jamie admits that they created this game to push Chuck and Brittany together. Chuck is there to tell Brittany about how he feels, and he walks off. This pisses Brittany off even more, since all Chuck does is run. She follows him and yells about how, "Charles, you never listen! Charles never listens!" And he plays innocent, where he yells that he isn't a terrible person, as he's trying to defend himself. The others joke about how they're going to make out, and it's like, no. And both of the exes are really mad. Brittany rants to Jamie about the situation, and Chuck walks back into the room to mention that they need to work together, and if she sabotages him, she is sabotaging herself. The elimination is at the Armageddon, but the votes are revealed by what they are standing on. Josh and Sylvia, Shane and Nelson, Angela and Faith, and Polly and Natalie get votes, but Polly and Natalie are nominated for elimination, but they are shown who votes for them, so it isn't really a secret. They get to choose between Joss and Sylvia, Amanda and Zach, and Cam and Kaylee, and Brad and Cam. But they can choose anyone but the daily winners that voted them in, since Brad and Cal won, so they can't choose to go against Brad and Cal, so they have to choose between the other three. They choose Cam and Kaylee since Natalie wants to get at Kaylee, but Polly wants to take out one of the guys. Cam is pissed off since she's good in eliminations, and Amanda shades Polly for voting in an all-women's team, despite it really not being his choice. The elimination is think outside the box, where one of them are in a box and the other partner is attached to a bungee cord where they are given puzzles that they have to move to their partner in the box, and the trapped person has to climb them up after building the puzzle. Polly is livid, but since this is a mixed gender season, there are equalizers, and Polly is given additional stretchers because he is a guy. This is really dumb though, since he and Cam are literally the same height, and I believe they are the same weight as well. Of course, the guys are clowning Polly for losing to Cam, who is strong but also a girl, though they all knew that he had equalizers. Cam is literally coaching Kaylee on how to build the puzzle, and the elimination would have been fine without the stupid equalizer, which is annoying, but Cam and Kaylee do beat Natalie and Polly. Kyle is thrilled with Polly being gone, with Tony and Zach clowning him, and he is teasing Cara Maria about it. Polly and Natalie arrive to the Redemption House, and of course Jose and Devon aren't really happy with this. Jamie isn't thrilled that two BB teams are there, and Polly and Natalie tell them about the format of the season thus far, and Polly rants about Kyle targeting him due to his relationship with Cara Maria and how he wanted to target Joss and Sylvia. And Devon thinks that Polly's just doing way too much, making all of these enemies. Jose tells Polly and Natalie that Brittany is a crazy bitch. Chuck cheated for a reason, which, yikes, blaming the woman for why the man cheated. Not a good look, Jose. And Natalie defends Brittany, saying that she loves her. And I do believe they're close friends, even to this day. So this adds up. Shane is wearing a helmet, which helps with hair growth, as he explains it to Faith. And we will see this more than once in the season. And apparently, Kyle suggested for Shane to get hair plugs himself, which is just hilarious. Shane speaks to Brad about Brittany being gone, and Brad is sad about Brittany not even making it into the house, but he isn't going to let it get to him. Chuck and Brittany make amends, and there will always be feelings there, and Polly is watching them throughout the window, and they don't like that Polly and Natalie are in the house. Polly knows that Brittany is still in love with Chuck, and he tells Chuck and Brittany to their faces that if he makes it back into the house, he's going to tell the house that Brittany rode Chuck hard, and he tells them that he's going to lie because he wants to mess with the people in the house. Back at the house, Katie talks to a few people about how Nelson flew out to the UK right after his elimination last season and things went to hell and they never went anywhere after Vendettas. Jamie and Jenna talk about what would they do when they come back to the house, and we have Zach talking to Nelson about how he got back with Jenna despite everything, and he's essentially giving Nelson advice. And Nelson thought that he had what Jenna and Zach had with Kaylee, though he still thinks Kaylee cheated on him with Bananas, which is ridiculous since you watched the season air, you filmed the reunion, you had months after filming to be told what actually happened, and he still believes this, but just shows how Nelson just doesn't think properly. Bananas and Shane get into a fight since Shane is trying to figure out the votes, and Bananas doesn't like it since he should believe what people are telling. Shane is asking Bananas how he should do it since he wants to expose Bananas for being a snake, so things are definitely building up between the two, which will just get worse throughout the season. Bananas and Angela are getting closer, and Angela has a boyfriend, and I think from X on the Beach, and I think it's that Torai guy from X on the Beach 1, where obviously we have fallout for that on X on the Beach 2, if I'm remembering this correctly. It's been like 6 or 7 years since I watched it. And Cam mentions that Angela needs to get closer to the women instead of the men, so she's critiquing Angela. Nelson and Kelly finally have a talk where she is tired of him just wanting to talk about the game, though she admits that she misses him, so things are taking step by step with them regarding their progressive relationship. The people at the Redemption House pack up since some people are going to go back into the game and some others are going outright home. They arrive at the double cross, which some of them recognize from Dirty 30. Whichever pair pulls the double cross gets to choose who they will compete against, and the teams not chosen or pulls the double cross are going home for good. And whomever loses the elimination, they go back to the Redemption House, and that's just really stupid. Anyways, Natalie and Polly choose the double cross, and it's very obvious that they're going to choose Devon and Jose, since they all did the same show together like a year and a half ago, and they've known one another for a year and a half. I'm pretty sure Brittany and Chuck and Jenna and Jamie knew that they were dead on arrival here. So the cast at the main house are going to the elimination in the middle of the night where they will watch the redemption competition. Literally, most of the house are not happy with the choices at all, meaning Natalie and Polly having the double cross, and they're even more pissed because Polly makes some dramatic ass speech about going after the girls of the men who and after him. So essentially a shot at Zach and Brad. Obviously, Polly and Natalie choose to compete against Jose and Devon, sending Jamie and Jenna home and Brittany and Chuck home, though people are clowning Polly for going after women when that really wasn't his reason, and they all knew that wasn't the reason, but they just were obsessed with emasculating and making fun of Polly, especially around this point. I don't have much to say about Jenna and Jamie. There really wasn't a real feud, and Jamie had some fun confessionals as usual, but that's all she was able to do. Jenna didn't do anything in the season, but that's probably because she and Zach were at their most peaceful since her debut at this point in time in their relationship, but her chance prowess weakened due to her injury on Temps vs. Stars. Brittany and Chuck went at it a few times, and we were able to get into their nasty history with one another, which made the Redemption House a bit more interesting, though they did get closer. It does suck that Chuck's experience on the show involved him laying in a grave and then staying in a house. Him, Brittany, nor Jamie would ever come back to this show, at least for the flagship on Jamie's part since she does go on All Stars, but as we all know, Jenna will continue on. The Redemption elimination is balls to the wall, where a sledgehammer is attached to the wall, and they each have to pull the sledgehammer out, and then once they have it, they have to break the ice, and it's literally raining as the elimination is taking place. Devon and Jose end up winning the elimination, but that isn't the memorable thing about this. Brad and Zach are seething at Polly, and Polly is seething at them back. Brad is yelling at Polly to get his diaper changed. The guys are clowning Polly. Polly is trying to talk back, but Devon is literally covering his mouth and is playing security for him, essentially. Kyle and Zach are yelling at Polly. Polly is yelling like a complete lunatic, and a bunch of people are holding him back. He calls them soft-ass bitches. He mentions that he did Brad a favor by telling him the truth about Brittany fucking Chuck and saying that she loved him, and then it shut Brad the fuck up. And to be honest, it's what he deserved. Though, technically, Polly kind of started with him first, but if that's just kind of how it goes when it comes to arguments. Brad makes fun of Polly for being from the suburbs, though I'm pretty sure Brad's also from the suburbs as well, so I don't know why that was brought up. Polly apparently called Kyle some UK slang term, which I have no idea what the fuck it is. The girls, mainly Natalie and Devon, tell Polly to let it go, and Brad is realizing that something has been off over the last 3 days. Natalie is crying about how she screwed it up for them, and Polly cheers her up. And we end with Polly ranting at the Redemption House how he wouldn't be cool with those three outside of the house, and how he really wants to go at them. I think I mentioned this in my Big Brother 18 review, but Polly is someone who really wants to be liked, and once he gets a hint that someone doesn't like him, especially he likes them, he goes absolutely AWOL. Devon and Jose move into the house, and the guys are talking about wanting to beat up Polly. Jose and Devon decide to be selective with the information that they have about the Redemption House, especially the camera room, and Brad is thinking about what was supposedly said and done with Brittany and Chuck, where Kyle is actually worried about Brad, which is nice. We see Johnny and Angela cuddling and kissing, though he knows that this won't end well since people are pressed on him, and I forgot that Derek and Angela were exes from Ex on the Beach. In general, there's a lot of commentary about Angela and Bananas from people and them supposedly using one another. Tori is not over being tied to her liability of an ex, and Sylvia is annoyed that Joss isn't trying to work with her as a team, and they're clearly showing this because those two will be in the next elimination. In hindsight, Shane told CT that Veronica has been working out, and Veronica told Shane before the season that she dreamed of being partnered with CT. CT tries to get Veronica to work out. She says that she isn't going to do it, and she isn't into it, and she mentions that they have two different approaches to the game, which is getting him more frustrated, and he also wants her to stop drinking. Brad asks Jose about if there's any truth to Polly's statement, and Jose mentions that there were some things that were confessed that if he was Brittany, if he, i.e. Jose, was him, i.e. Brad, he would be concerned, and she was walking in the house with nothing on, and he thinks that Brittany is using Brad as a void that is missing in Chuck. So he's essentially kind of agreeing with what Polly was saying, though not to that extent. Brad is annoyed because he bought her a necklace that he was going to give to her in the house, and he thinks that they aren't going to last. Nelson and Faith are talking about Kaylee, and Kaylee is annoyed that he is speaking to Faith, thinking that they are flirting, and from what was shown, they aren't, and she insults Faith's ass. Faith has a nice ass, so Kaylee's just hating here. Faith approaches Jose and Devon that the rookies are targets, which is obvious, and it happens every season, and that their teams need to work together. Jose and Devon are stretching the truth about the surveillance in the Redemption, but a bunch of people are into talking to her now, conveniently. The daily is strike bait, where they have to go from hanging steak to hanging steak to get to the other platform, where the winner gets an invented in the next challenge, and if one partner fails, both partners are out. And this is also a purge challenge, so the last place will be sent right to Redemption. Sylvia is annoyed since Joss bailed on her in the challenge and went to help Amanda, who isn't even a part of his team. Brad and Kyle make it across, and Veronica doesn't even get across a rope. Jose took swimming lessons after Temps vs. Stars, and CT is yelling at him to get Jose to fall, which unfortunately fails for CT, but Jose still sucks at swimming. Tony and Brad also get across the platform, and of course the two guy pairs get through it easily. Derek still gets clowned by everyone, which isn't a surprise. Cal and Brad win yet again, and the pair that gets purged is CT and Veronica, where he's very pissed off, where he shakes everyone trying to hug him, and he doesn't even say bye to anyone. They arrive at the Redemption House, and Veronica tells Polly and Natalie that they got last, and CT is pissed off. Polly goes to speak to his idol, CT, and CT just complains, and he mainly mumbles about it, where they have to put subtitles in it, and even with that, I can still barely understand what he's saying. And he's also talking fast, in addition to mumbling. CT and Veronica end up arguing, where they have 5 champions between them, but they then end up going home after 2 challenges here. She asks him where they went wrong, and he says that I don't know. She's tired of him saying I don't know, since she wants to have an actual conversation. Veronica tells CT to fuck off once he walks off, and he's saying that he can't handle this well at all. Veronica threatens to quit and she takes her mic off, where he mentions that she just quits anyway, so it really doesn't matter. He's then yelling about being on Team Layup, and he throws a chair while she's already in bed. Apparently, they are paired together because he voted her in on Dirty 30 since he called her weak, but that was such a fucking stretch. I'm sure they both had and have other stronger rivals. The house is at the club, and Tony and Brad is talking about how Brad needs to end it with Brittany. Tony and Bananas have a conversation where Bananas asks him why they made the move, and Tony is tired of being made to look like Johnny's bitch. Bananas mentions that Tony was his younger brother, but he also says that Tony should have given him the heads up. It is a pretty emotional conversation between the two of them. Nelson is speaking to Faith and Angela, who he does date for a few years after this, and Katie is very pissed off, where the two of them are arguing when they get back to the house, and she wants him to tell her when people are coming on to him, and it's just ridiculous. And it's crazy because nothing happened with him and Faith, but we do see Nelson and Katie speak yet again in the morning, so things are seemingly fine with them. CT plots the alliances and the allegiances of the house in the Redemption House, and it's very interesting to look at. If I could break it down, I would, but I just don't have time for that. Brad speaks to Brittany on a webcam through their weekly calls, and Brittany mentions that she was in a bikini on one day on the Redemption House, or in the Redemption House, my bad, and nothing happened with her and Chuck. Brad also mentions what Jose said, but things are good with them for right now. Devon kind of pushes a similar narrative to Kara that Polly was pushing as well, which is kind of just adding fuel to the fire, but Brad tells a bunch of people that Jose is essentially lying, and Cal doesn't like seeing Brad like this. Sylvia talks about how her room, the three couples are having sex, which is Nelson and Kaylee, Joss and Amanda, and Faith and Cal, which is disturbing as hell to her, as they all finish very quickly, where all of them plop out of their bed, but make a lot of noise, and it's a very hilarious scene. Zach and Tori talk about how they're stuck against partners who are weaker, physically at least, and they agree to not burn votes on one another, which is very interesting. Shane wants to get down to business Shane wants to figure out if Cal and Faith slept together, where they admit it through a truth or dare game. Cara Maria speaks to Faith about not caring that Faith and Cal slept together, and she mentions that she doesn't like being the jerk over it, and she does not like Faith going after someone who has someone. Who does Cal have? Anyways, Faith is the real veteran in the house since she went into the military, and she's tired of the whole rookie thing, where it is somewhat of a confrontational situation, but it's weird as hell too. At the Redemption House, TJ takes them to the surveillance room where it shows all the couples who are sleeping together. Polly is annoyed that Cal is sleeping with Faith, and Natalie is annoyed that Bananas and Angela are kissing. Natalie is annoyed since they should have just avoided all the Cal and Cara Maria miss, and all of them talk about how Angela and Faith are snuggling up with the guys, and how that's going to bite them in the butt, and it also just screams desperation from a political point of view. The daily is off the rails, where they have to go from the front to the back of the train above the air, and if they fall, they are out. This is an okay daily, and Brad and Cal gets to take away a lifeline from any team due to winning the last challenge, which is Cara Maria and Marie. Johnny and Tony, Sylvia and Joss, and Amanda and Zach complete it, where Amanda and Zach win the daily, and they get the power vote. We have a conversation with Cal and Cara Maria, where she mentions that a lot of little girls look up to her, so she wants to be strong, and they should probably pick a new role model. And they still have feelings for one another. And Marie interrupts. It's telling Cara Maria to get off his lap. Shane and Zach are talking about who he's targeting, and Zach mentions Devon and Jose, since he already sent them home, but Shane wants to weaken Johnny by getting out Faith and Angela. Shane repeats this to Devon and Jose, where he is trying to save them, but as soon as he leaves, they do not trust him, and they don't want to vote for the other rookie team. Tori is also pushing the same thing to a few of the others. A bunch of the teams give out burn votes, and Cara Maria and Marie reveals to Tori and Shane that they voted in Brad and Cal, though they promised to vote in Angela and Faith. Shane and Tori are pissed off, but Cal overhears the conversation, and he calls out Cara Maria, where Brad mentions that Cara Maria is sabotaging his chance to better his kid's life. And honestly, bringing your kids to conveniently get sympathy in a game where you chose to leave them to play this game to make yourself feel better than is annoying as hell. And she doesn't feel bad, since Cal is hooking up with Faith, and they sabotage her in the daily, which, fair point. Cara Maria and Marie and Devon and Jose talk about the vote, where people don't know they don't know who is going to be voted in, who voted where, and the former thinks that Angela and Faith are going in, since no one voted in Devon and Jose, where the latter does reveal that they didn't vote in Angela and Faith, which Shane overhears. Shane is pissed off, since he went out of his way to protect them. Kind of, but he did it through disingenuous means, since he really did it to send in Angela and Faith, not to really save them. This leads to Shane and Yvonne fighting, where she said that she made her own decisions, and she claims that he's trying to be Geppetto, and he calls her a bitch several times, where Bananas is mocking Shane on being a faux feminist, and Shane calls her fat, where she clearly isn't fat, and she refuses to deal with him calling her a bitch. Nelson tells Shane to not call Devon a bitch, and it's ironic since Nelson will call other women that too, and Shane mentions that Devon made a dumb move, cutting any sort of ties that she could have. She didn't want to show that side of her, and they say it does end up calming her down. It is revealed that Tori and Derek get the most votes, and people realize that they fucked up with the burn votes. Angela and Faith, Kyle and Brad, and Jose and Sylvia voted for them, and they choose Joss and Sylvia to play in Ram It Up, where they have to run up their opponent's motor pipe to grab a ball and run up their own to place it there. Joss and Sylvia win over Tori and Derek, and of course Derek screwed it up for them, and Tori's really pissed off. Shane feels like crap because Devon and Jose screwed up their plan, and Tori and Derek arrive to the redemption house to complain about the burn vote situation and claiming that everyone is voted in scared, and Polly goes on some sort of weird-ass rant about idolizing these people, but they're playing scared, and you have to beat the best to be the best, and it's really just cringe to watch, and he's just like walking by himself. Oh gosh. Anyways, Cam tells her plan to Kaylee and Carmaria to come up with a plan to protect all of their allies from elimination, and we move on to Dig Deep for the daily, where they are playing in two teams. They have to solve a puzzle underground, and once they get free, they have to make it to the finish line. But the pair who makes it across first will win overall. It's pretty fun watching everyone dig out of this, so I did enjoy the daily. Cam and Kaylee end up winning the daily. Tori and Derek cash it out in the redemption house, and she mentions that she held back because she thinks that he still has feelings for her, and he mentions that it's hard to work with someone who cheated on him. Cam is using the vote to save people, so she isn't going after people, but to save them, and she tells Kaylee to let Cam handle everything. Cam tells the entire house that Kaylee is letting her handle it, and her vote is going to Brad and Kyle because they voted her in and gave her a grenade last season, and Sylvia and Joss. Everyone is confused as hell about it, but her real plan is to save the people she mentioned, and she wanted everyone to vote for one another, so their votes are cancelled out, so she can choose the people going into elimination. Sylvia and Kyle know about the plan, so Sylvia is acting her ass off, and it's just really hilarious. Everyone knows that everyone's burn voting once again, and they are scrambling. Cam tells the Lavender leaders and Carm and Marie that the entire thing was faked. Angela is complaining to Jose about what she heard, and they're over at Cam being scared of the rookies. Faith and Angela are voted into elimination by Cam's votes, and due to the burn vote situation, Devon and Jose are the only people who voted for them, since Cam and Katie are immune. Honestly, all this was really unnecessary just to throw in the two rookies. Faith moons the cast, and TJ announces that the two rookies are not going against one another, but the missionaries, Hunter and Ashley, are, where they are fighting to take Faith and Angela's spot, so Devon and Jose are safe this time. TJ also mentions that if Ashley and Hunter lose this elimination, they will go to the redemption house, so I found that to be pretty interesting. The elimination is no slack, where they have to punch the window while their partner is attached to them through the harness, and they have to do this through 3 to 4 walls. Apparently, Hunter's wall was harder because he's a male and obviously has more strength. Faith and Angela are in the lead initially, but Faith ends up breaking her thumb, so their lead is lost, where Ashley and Hunter are able to beat them and enter the house. Everyone is being annoyingly happy with Ashley and Hunter coming in, and Johnny mentions that Hunter beat a bunch of girls. Jose and Devon tell Faith and Angela to get very close to Polly and Natalie, just in case it's just those two in the redemption and they can pick each other. And Carmen Maria realizes that she's in a catch-22, because while Faith is gone, Ashley being back kind of pushes herself and Marie further in the bottom of the house. Cal is conveniently over Faith now since she left, and he wants to hook up with Ashley now. Faith and Angela arrive to the redemption house and to tell them that Ashley and Hunter are in the house and they complain about Cam. Derek and Angela are back in the house together as they are exes. Or in the redemption house together as they are exes. Ashley takes Faith's bed, and people are betting on how quickly it will take for Cal and Ashley to sleep with one another. Devon tells Jose that she knew it was a setup, and she rants about Cam, mentioning that the quote-unquote rookies need to earn it, where Cam was a rookie yesterday. And this is the annoying mentality that a lot of second season players have, so I get to their frustration. Cam is bragging about protecting 7 out of 9 teams, though they're still low on the totem pole, I'm pretty sure of, which doesn't seem like it's known to her. Kyle and Ashley rush to her bunk to have sex with one another, and Ashley hopes that Faith doesn't come back now. Hunter finds out about it and asks Ashley if it's true, and she denies it, though Devon watched them run off. Devon and Shane have a conversation where they're pretending to make up, and they don't really believe one another. He doesn't believe her. Sorry, she doesn't believe him, and he is obviously faking it, and it's very insincere. And it's crazy that they are going to be on All Stars 5 together. Devon tells Jose about the apology, and Jose has no interest in it, since he wouldn't be friends with him in real life. Amanda is bragging about her relationship with Joss and how it's real compared to Angela and Bananas, which is so fake. Shane is salty that Carmaria and Bananas are complaining about the vets being a dying breed amongst the Lavender ladies, despite Shane being older than all of them regarding when he debuted. And Shane confronts Carmaria about how she ignores all of them but Bananas when the show stops filming, and she isn't a friendly person, though she knows that he is doing this because she is close to Bananas. Bananas and Carmaria complain about Shane some more, and he calls out Shane for being messy, and Shane is shit-talking him to everyone, and he wants Shane to stop being so condescending in their conversation. Shane calls Bananas weird. Bananas tells Shane to wear his helmet, where Shane literally does get his helmet to call Bananas a narcissistic sociopath, which is just very funny, with him actually grabbing his helmet, and how Johnny doesn't want to get to know anyone. And Johnny calls out Shane for being insecure, where Shane just mentions that Bananas is mad that he has no power. TJ brings the redemption cast into the surveillance room, and they show Cal and Ashley hooking up on Faith's old bed. She is hurt over the situation, and Angela does cheer her up, and they bond over how Cal is a pirate, so now they hate Cal. The daily is Don't Push Me Around, where they are on two teams, and they have to race through the revolving doors to get their goals in the net, and the winning team has to vote a power couple. Sorry, they have to get 2 votes. I don't know why I mumbled that. Shane tells Nelson that he is throwing the challenge since the two teams, i.e. Jose and Devon and Bananas and Tony, want to vote them in, and Nelson calls it a stupid idea, and the two of them are literally going at it while they're doing their joint confessional. Shane is literally strolling and sitting while the challenge is happening, and Jose is over it. Jose asks Shane, and he's playing dumb, though he mentions that they aren't a team, and there's no reason why he would want them to win. Devon has to calm our partner down, and Jose is going off about him screwing up, how he mentions that he looks better than Shane, he has a better career, though his music career is something that Shane shades, and calls him a mean girl who has a hole between his legs. He threatened Shane at the reunion, though nothing ends up happening there, and they both bottom shame one another, which is just ridiculous. But this argument is just so hilarious to me, and I did find Josh doing puppet impressions of them to be very funny as well. Zach and Amanda are the power couple, and of course they're going to target Jose and Devon again, since they can't target anyone else, since they are on both sides of the house. Tony shades Shane for his bad move, which is why he has never made it to a final, and Jose and Devon are insistent on targeting Shane and Nelson now, though they are resigned to their fate with this vote. Ashley does regret hooking up with Cal, so she wants to keep it mum. The Lavender ladies are getting shot at the club, and Bananas realizes that someone is going to have to be sacrificed from that group. Marie and Carmaria realize that they're at the bottom of the alliance, and they hope that the rookies don't vote them in. Veronica is still sleeping while Natalie is on a run, while CT is watching Natalie run. He goes to speak to Veronica, where he realizes that his motivational approach, quote unquote, isn't working, so he sits on the floor to ask Veronica what to do, and she says to not make fun of her, but they do end up working it out. Tori and Derek are targeting Jose and Devon, and Marie and Carmaria if they go into the house again, since both teams screwed them over, which is fair. Marie asks Ashley and Shane if they are going to be burn voted, since Marie thinks that the rookies are going after the women teams, but both of them are tired of Marie and her paranoia. We are seeing the dissension between Zach and Amanda, where they can't vote on either side. Of course, Devon and Jose are voted in elimination due to Zach and Amanda breaking the tie, where Joss and Sylvia and Cam and Kaylee are tied with them. Amanda and Zach were the only ones who voted them in, but because they are safe, the rookies can choose anyone they want. And Jose, chooses Cam and Kaylee, where both of them are over it, since Natalie did the same thing, and Cam would have sent them in without the mercenaries the last vote, and they sent their other rookie team home, where Kaylee kind of shades Bananas' comrade, that's what he calls Angela, which is just awful, and she sent home their best friends, i.e. Polly and Natalie. So Cam clearly isn't a fan of Big Brother at this point of time. And it seemed like Devon wanted to choose Nelson and Shane, or that's what she was expecting him to choose. Think Tank is a puzzle where one of them has to be sunk under the think tank to memorize the puzzle, and then they relate it to their partner who has to build it. Not a fan of this elimination, where Slater stated that I think both Kaylee and Devon got some sort of hypothermia due to it, and it's really just not fun to watch. And it's the same elimination that was done on Battle of the Seasons 2, where Eric kind of showed his ass and forced Camilla to DQ because he quit. Anyways, Cam and Kaylee win the elimination, and both of them, i.e. Kaylee and Devon, are treated by the ambulance. Cam calls out Jose for choosing her, and it was a poor time to pick this argument while they're all in the ambulance, and I see why Devon just got fed up. Devon and Jose arrive to the Redemption House, and Tori has some smoke. The two of them try to explain the situation, and Tori calls it ironic that they're calling the others pussies, since the two of them were pussies for burning their votes. They tell Tori that Shane said that they wanted them out, and Tori worked her ass off to protect them. Devon and Jose mentioned that they were playing the game, and she doesn't feel bad for them anyways. Tori storms off, and the rookies are unfazed about this mess. It is the second double cross which Devon and Jose pulls. Actually, they don't pull it, since everyone else pulled it and flopped. Bananas is annoyed with Ashley and Amanda caring about who he gets with, and they both throw insults about their romances with Joss and Angela, and them not wanting to date their partners in real life, and it's really just stupid. The cast is talking about the surveillance camera and what the Redemption people are seeing. Cam wants Tori and Derek or Veronica and CT to pull the double cross, since if the other three teams come back, it's clear that they're going after her and Kaylee. And it's clear that the cast in general just doesn't want Big Brother or the rookies coming back. Zach feels bad for Cara Maria with having to watch Cal hook up with other people, and he would be heartbroken if Jenna did the same thing to him. I'm really not going to waste time trying to build any sort of suspense or give in to the show trying to build some sort of suspense. There's a lot of pointless footage that I could go on about regarding the cases, but it's not for naught. Of course, Devon and Jose are going to play against Polly and Natalie, sending CT, Veronica, Tori and Derek, and Angela and Faith home. Though we get a corny ass read off, though I don't want to recap it. Though it's pretty funny that Cam shuts down Natalie's attempt to argue with her. And Faith calmly exposes Ashley and Kyle, humorously, which was pretty funny. CT and Veronica was a contrived pairing in my mind, but they definitely have different game plays, especially with Veronica coming back from her hiatus. CT didn't get much to do in the season, and Veronica should stick with All Stars in the future. Though she has one more flagship season that isn't up to par yet again. CT still had his funny moments though. Tori definitely had a frustrating and a bad sophomore season, though I don't blame her for being upset due to pairing up with Derek, who continued to flop this season and continued his popcorn muscles reputation. It's not shocking that he didn't come back, but apparently he was close to getting on 40, but this poor scoring won't slow Tori down at all. Angela and Faith were more enjoyable than I remembered, though I do remember hating Angela on her prior TV appearances. They performed better than I remembered in the challenges, but I know Angela never came back due to the fight with Janelle on X on the Beach 2 that production set up. Faith gets another chance, though. That didn't turn out well at all, which we will get into. Anyways, the Redemption Challenge is Pyramid Schemers, where they have to solve 2 puzzles on 4 sides, and the teams will alternate until one team solves both puzzles. It was a pretty cool elimination that I wish we saw again on another season. Yet again, Jose and Devon beat Polly and Natalie knows that she's the weak link, which other people notice. Cam throws some shade at Natalie for flopping and mentions that it is karma for her trying to come for her. Hunter is really annoyed that Ashley lied about hooking up with Kyle, where he gave her the chance to be honest, since he doesn't give second chances to liars. Carmaria thinks that Ashley broke girl code, though Ashley doesn't owe her anything, and she's complaining about this to Nelson. We move on to the challenge, which is another purge. The challenge is called Ducking for Dinner, where the person with the lever has to lower their partner in the water to move each bag into the other circle, which represents the food on the table that they have to eat. Actually, the person with the lever has to eat it. Hunter wins it for himself and Ashley, and Cam blows it for herself and Kaylee, so they're purged right to the Redemption House. Of course, Kaylee and Cam are not looking forward to seeing Natalie at the Redemption House, and Natalie is definitely feeling some type of way. Polly is chatting with the both of them while Natalie stays upstairs, and he mentions in the confessional about her not telling her feelings is why people think that she is fake. Polly wants them all to have a conversation, and Kaylee does not give a fuck whatsoever. Natalie mentions in the confessional that Kaylee outed her and isn't looking forward to the situation at all. Back at the main house, Tony and Bananas are talking about how they are the power duo, but the Lavender ladies need to be split up at some point. Shane tells Nelson that they need to vote in Tony and Bananas, and they have to trust the women, but it is hard since they win challenges. Everyone is out at the club, and Hunter is speaking to Josh about how the two guy duos are like this, and he's crossing his fingers, indicating that they're very close and need to be targeted. And Zach is getting annoyed with being forced to play against his best friend, Tony. Cara Maria confronts Ashley about sleeping with Kyle and not telling her about it, where Ashley thinks that Cara Maria is crazy since she doesn't know anyone's sexual history. Amanda is getting even more annoyed than Ashley is, since Cara Maria essentially just ruined a good night. Once they get back home, Ashley rants about how she is over Cara Maria and how she would not hang out with her in real life. Cara Maria goes in the room to yell at everyone for talking shit about her, but won't say it to her face. Amanda decides to yell at her, and I can barely understand what either one of them are saying at this point. Ashley jumps in to defend Cara about how no one likes you. Marie is over it, and she tells them to shut up, which of course pisses off her alliance. Cara Maria complains to Dave Vaughn and Jose, and Amanda joins the room again to confront Cara Maria about how no one likes her. Cara Maria mentions that she likes her horse, and then Amanda makes fun of her horse, and then Amanda says that she hopes her horse died. And when Cara Maria's horse eventually did die, Amanda did apologize to it on 40. Zach yells at Amanda that she needs to shut the hell up, and Marie sticks up for her partner, where they all mention that she's the one who shit talks Cara Maria the most. We go to the Redemption house where Polly is playing mediator between the two of them, where he and Cam are eating popcorn. And I wonder how Polly was really feeling at this moment, since he was hiding his sexuality at this time and he was closeted before he came out on TV. So it's an interesting contrast there. Natalie asks Kaylee why she snapped on social media, and Kaylee responds that the kiss happened before Natalie ever got with Johnny. Natalie mentions that she's insecure, so of course another girl kissing him makes her insecure. Kaylee mentions that Natalie was laughing when the suitcase thing happened. Natalie mentions that she doesn't like hurting people, and she apologizes. Kaylee mentions that Natalie said that she was into women on vendettas, and there's some allegation that she was with Veronica, and Kaylee is quote-unquote trying to apologize here. Natalie mentions that she never said that she was a lesbian. Kaylee isn't taking any accountability, and Natalie is yelling at the top of her lungs, where I've never seen her get this rowdy, and she yells about how adding people is awful, and Kaylee yells as well, and the two of them are standing in one another's faces while the partners are splitting them up. Kaylee did not like that Natalie made it look like she stole Johnny, and Kaylee says that she would do it again, regarding Alec her. So the apology is essentially gone. Natalie cries and talks to Polly about how she's hurt about the situation, and they are getting closer. And it's ironic since he's a confirmed closet case at this point. And Cam just listens to Kaylee rant about hating Natalie. There is still tension between Ashley and Hunter due to the cow thing, but we go to the Daily Sky Bridge, where they have to create a rope bridge 100 feet above the land, and they are battling another team while doing it. It's a decent enough daily, and we do see Hunter and Ashley, and Zach and Amanda really fall apart due to their communication. Tony and Bananas win the daily yet again, and they are more than thrilled. Nelson is worried that he and Shane are going to be nominated, so he campaigns to Tony, and Tony says that he will tell Nelson if he gets nominated, which, if I recall, doesn't end up happening. Ashley and Jose are talking about how Hunter doesn't like her. They go back to the house and Ashley is crying in her bed, where Hunter mentions that Ashley regrets sleeping with Kyle and she is tired of the sexist double standards. Ashley and Sylvia console her, and Hunter is eavesdropping, where Sylvia tells him to leave and they continue speaking to Ashley, and Hunter rants about how this stupid slut is going to cost him $1 million, where he'll come for her family if she fucks this all up for it. And this is just really disgusting. Johnny and Cara Maria don't know where the votes are going, though him and Tony are keeping their vote a secret from everyone else. The Lavender ladies are plotting about how to cancel out Tori and Bananas' double vote, which Shane is working out, though everyone is confused. Zach and Amanda, Nelson and Shane, and Devon and Jose get the most votes, but the winners get to break the tie, where Bananas and Tony chooses Nelson and Shane to go into elimination. With Tony and Bananas being the only ones to vote for them, they can vote in anyone they want, but they do choose to go with Cal and Brad, and it's mainly Nelson's choice, seemingly. Tread Lightly is the elimination where they have to grab a stick and hold it with their partner's stick, walk across a few obstacles while they have to dump a ball in their box. It was funny seeing them fall over and over again, and it's an elimination all about precision. Shane and Nelson do end up beating Brad and Cal. Brad mentions that he's going to send Nelson home first every season from here on out, and they haven't done a season together since. And Cal is pissed to be going to redemption with Polly. Cal left Cara Maria a necklace and a ring on her bed, and Marie is hoping that Cara Maria will focus now. They explain what happened once he gets to redemption, and Polly arrives where he is playing nice at this moment. Brad and Cal rant about Nelson, and Cam notes that Brad is just a sore loser who has never left this early before in his career. We move on to the daily where they are playing Caged In, where one is out of the cage and the other one is in the cage, where the person in the cage is given tools by their partner to get out of the cage. Then they have to solve a puzzle. It's a fine enough daily where I liked the first part, but I didn't care about the last part. Zach and Amanda win the daily, and everyone knows what they are going to do. Cara Maria and Marie will have a disadvantage in the next challenge for getting last in this daily. Amanda wants Tony and Bananas outside of the house, where Zach obviously does not want to do that, since Tony is his best friend, and they were Batman and Robin last season. Cara Maria mentions that Jose and Devon are floaters, and they can vote whatever they want, and they can do whatever they want. They can go wherever they want to go, where Cara Maria knows that the vote will probably be her, since all of the others are too afraid to get called out by Tony and Bananas. Cara Maria speaks to the two guys where they need to go after Ashley and Hunter or Joss and Sylvia, and Cara Maria specifically wants Ashley gone, and this is clearly partially due to the whole Cal situation. Polly is seething about Cal since he is not over Cal sending him home due to being friends with Cara Maria. Polly mentions that he might as well have come into the game and fucked her, and came into the game single, since he got the backlash all for it due to it without even doing anything. Or at least at this point. Emphasis on at this point. Cal mentions that he should have stayed out of their situation, and Polly mentions that he didn't even know what was going on between the two of them. Cal mentions that he doesn't regret anything. Polly mentions that he'll go after all of the guys, and mentions that he'll fuck him up. So Cal could look like how he did before all of his surgeries, and I did find that to be a good line, I'm not gonna lie. They're getting in one another's faces, and Brad splits them up immediately, where he's able to calm Kyle down. Nelson and Devon are talking about how they are both from Inglewood, are the same age, and went to all the same schools, but she finds it very convenient that he is now speaking to her. But Nelson is doing this because the rookies are chopped liver to Bananas and Tony, and that's what he's telling her. Bananas campaigns to Jose and Devon to try to get their vote, and she essentially throws Nelson under the bus, where they decide to side with Bananas. Amanda walks into Tony and Zach's conversation, and she starts yelling at him, where Amanda mentions that Tony would vote for him, i.e. Zach, since he voted in Bananas, where Amanda's friends won't vote him in, and Zach is too stuck on vendettas at this point. She's then yelling at Tony and Bananas, who is on the balcony, and Zach mentions that protecting one team is good, and she doesn't know how to play the game, which is why she sucks at the game. The two of them are arguing about how they don't like one another and their differing strategies. Zach mentions that she told someone that their horse needs to die, and he tells Joss to get his whore, which, not a good look. Devon is playing both sides, where she tells Ashley that she is siding with them, and Ashley finds it odd, since Devon never spoke to her all season. But to be fair, Ashley, you just arrived like a few episodes ago. Of course, the vote is a tie, where Ashley and Hunter and Johnny and Bananas end up getting tied. Amanda and Zach vote for the opposing team, but they both have to agree, or else they are going into elimination. Zach decides that they are going in, since they are not budging, and she has to come down now. Neither team decides to step in for their friend, which shows the mentality of the likes of Tony and Ashley, and even a Bananas, compared to an Amanda and Zach. They have to choose their opponents, but of course they choose Devon and Jose, but Devon is very pissed off. She rants about being the scapegoat and being targeted the entire time, as she calls her out for being a liar, and to be fair, she was a liar in this situation, and Hunter adds his commentary, where she tells to fuck you, bitch, while sign languaging it, which is very funny. She shuts them down, and she pretty much has a rant, and apparently Joss also called her 8 Mile during this point, or at this point, so racism, essentially. Anyways, TJ announces that there are mercenaries that both players have to play against, which is Corey and Devin. And Bananas mentioned that they went to the bottom of the barrel for the mercenaries. Obviously, Devin was on the season in the beginning, but his father passed away. Then he decided to join the season after a while. Anyways, Corey was always planned to join the season at this time, but he was initially partnered with Darrell. But the switch up went from Darrell to Devin due to the situation with Devin's father, and it caused Darrell to be booted off the season. The elimination is Shake It Off, where they are on a rope and have to shake off the 9 medallions. And because it is late in the game, Corey and Devin have to win 2 eliminations to get in the game. And we will talk about how they accomplished it. Zach gets a black eye from one of the medallions hitting him in the face, and he and Amanda are in the lead, but the final piece will not come off, causing Devin and Corey to catch up and beat them. Zach clearly broke his nose, and they are arguing as they're giving the final confessionals, where Zach mentions that he taught her a lesson, but Amanda says that she is not his daughter, he is not her father, so he didn't teach her a damn thing. She snaps at Bananas and Tori for letting them go in, and he mentions that it is her fault. Shane gets involved and yells that the house only likes Tori and not Bananas, where Bananas is pretending to cry. Jose and Devon compete against Corey and Devin, but the same final piece that Amanda and Zach were struggling with doesn't come off as well, and that same final piece is the one that Devon and Jose are struggling with. Anyways, Corey and Devin end up back in the house, and it's clear that production wanted them to come back due to the drama that would come up from them being in the house. And apparently, after the elimination, people in the cast tried to pull off that final medallion, and it wouldn't come off, so it's heavily speculated that this was essentially rigged. The Lavender Ladies and the Young Bucks are being obnoxious as hell about their victory, with them going after Bananas, telling him to retire, and Bananas mentions that he is going to haunt them. And he did outlast Nelson and Hunter on the show, where they are no longer on the show, and he still is. Most of the house is happy that Corey and Devin is in, and Zach wrote a note to Tony about how he needs to kick ass, where they only have Cara Maria and Marie in the house. The Young Bucks wants to take out the Big Bucks, which won't last after this season, and Corey wants to get off the losing streak that he is on, where Corey also wants to win with his daughter, Ryder, who he had with Cheyenne, and this is his first time mentioning his daughter, I believe. Actually, no, maybe he mentioned it on Predators, I don't really remember. That's besides the point. Devin talks about the situation with his father passing away and how he was in Africa with the cast, and Marie is told by her alliance that because Carmaria is attached to Bananas, she is going to be the next target, and Marie calls out Sylvia for being a poor friend, and the tension is growing between them. Devon and Jose arrive to the house, and of course, Polly and Natalie are not happy with this at all, since they're expecting that both of them could play in the house together at some point. Everyone is shocked that Amanda and Zach arrived, and they're even more shocked when the event of the last vote is explained to the house. Both of them feel like they shouldn't be in the redemption house, and they tell them that Corey and Devin are in the house. The daily is what goes up must come down, where they have to climb the staircase. One person has to memorize the puzzle, scream it to the other, race down the building to compete in the building, and whoever wins will get 2 votes, where Carmaria and Marie are getting punished for getting last in the last challenge, where they have to find a key to open the door, where the others have an open cage. The daily was pretty decent in my opinion. The entire cast decides to yell when Tony and Bananas are going, which is beyond annoying as hell, but Shane is right when Bananas always states what's love and fair in the challenge, or however the heck that saying, or what's love is fair and war, whatever, however you say it. Despite all that mess, Tony and Bananas do win the challenge, beating Shane and Nelson. The double vote really doesn't matter since the Lavender Ladies have all the power and they can cancel that double vote out. And Marie tells Ashley, Shane, and Sylvia that they are voting for her, where Sylvia doesn't want to talk about it. And Shane tells Marie the truth. Marie walks off as she runs to Bananas and Carmaria, where they think that he's a dick for turning on his friend like this. We get the obligatory club scene, and Marie fights with Ashley about how Marie needs to fight for her life, while Ashley has at least been to a final, and that Marie needs to stop being a sore loser. Marie is crying to Shane about him turning on her, where he mentions that he can't change anything. He really could, he just doesn't want to, which is fair, I guess. Marie confronts Sylvia, who is over it since it's been discussed over the last few hours, and Sylvia is yelling because there's only 5 teams left. And the only people that they actually want to target, they can't right now. This carries into the house where Sylvia yells about Marie being the only one freaking out, and they get in one another's face, where Marie puts her face on Sylvia's face, and then Sylvia headbutts Marie. Carmaria and Marie make up and become friends, which has remained from what I've seen online recently. Apparently, the producers asked Marie if she wanted Sylvia to go home, and she said no, which is why Sylvia didn't go home for this. Literally, the entire house votes in Cara Maria and Marie, so they can choose anyone who they want to face in the elimination, where they do choose to go against Shane and Nelson. The elimination is Meet Me Halfway, where they're in a maze and they have to break through the walls to get a box and unlock it. The elimination gives me claustrophobia just to watch it, and all the punching of the balls and stuff really disturbs me. Shane and Nelson do end up beating Cara Maria and Marie, where there are now only 2 women in the house. Amanda and Zach are talking about how they made the wrong move and their communication issue at the Redemption House, where he mentions that she needs to play her own game and her alliance is using her, but she is tired of how he treats her, so the conversation essentially goes nowhere. Tony and Bananas are not scared about being on their own, where the Young Bucks are bragging about how they are running shit. Cara Maria and Marie arrive to the Redemption House. Polly is very happy. Cara Maria is over Kyle, and Amanda is annoyed. Cara Maria talks to Cam and Katie about how they need to be Team Girl and have some sort of agreement to choose one another if they pull the double cross to guarantee one of them comes back. It's been a few days and Zach still can't breathe through his right nostril, so the doctors are checking him out. Cal tries to speak to Cara Maria to convince her not to choose Cam and Katie, and this gets back to Katie, which pisses her off since she and Cal made a pre-game agreement to work together before entering the season. It is time for the double cross, where 2 people are pulling the double cross, so there's room for 8 people. Cam and Katie pull the double cross, and Cal and Pratt also pull the double cross. The other double cross, so Big Brother's luck has officially ended. Cam and Kaylee confront Kyle about her shady move, and Kyle denies it, and Marie and Cara Maria call him out for absolutely doing it. Katie and Kyle are yelling at one another, and Brad is getting involved to mention that Katie talks shit, and she outscreams him, and it's an utter clusterfuck. Cam tells Polly that she's choosing Cara Maria and Marie, but she's coming up with a plan to get Cara Maria and Marie to be chosen by Kyle and Brad, so all 4 of the women can come back into the main house. Polly is hoping that Cal will choose him to settle their debt. TJ announces to the main house that he says that 2 pairs are coming back, and Nelson and Hunter make fun of Bananas, since they see this as a way for him to get 2 of his allies shipped in, where Bananas mentions that 2 of the Young Bucks were shipped in the season well after it started, so they're being hypocrites. We're at the 3rd redemption elimination, where it is announced that Zach and Amanda are pulled from the game due to his injury, with Cam and Kaylee choosing what seems like they're about to choose Polly and Natalie, but Kyle and Brad see through their plan to ensure 4 women enter the gang, since they're trying to convince Brad and Kyle to choose Cara Maria and Marie. So they mention that they weren't going to choose Cara Maria and Marie, and they threatened to choose Devon and Jose instead, just to ruin their plan. Cam and Kaylee end up choosing Cara Maria and Marie, and Kyle admits that he was going to choose them anyways, where Kyle and Brad end up choosing Polly and Natalie, sending Devon and Jose home. For a pair that didn't have any beef amongst themselves, Zach and Amanda grew to be the team that had the most hate for one another once their journey on the season ended, and they continued taking shots at one another all these years later, as I am recording this. It's interesting because their pairing had 2 people in different alliances, so they scapegoated Big Brother throughout the season. They're one of the frontrunners to win, but the stubbornness and violence single-handedly ruined it. As someone who did watch BB18, especially live, it was odd that Devon and Jose were paired together, since they didn't have a rivalry, but I found the both of them to be pretty funny on the season. They are definitely hates for being Big Brother and being rookies, but they weaponized the hell out of that redemption twist in their favor, and got into some drama and weren't cheap, so that despite their gameplay not really being the best. Despite Jose being a poor competitor, I would have preferred him to come back over many of the boring Era 4 people that came back well after the season, and even showed that she's much better at this show than Big Brother, even on her first season. The 3rd redemption elimination is That's the Ticket, where one partner is rolling the ball and the other is in the ball that is controlled by their opponent, where they have to get a specific ball and a specific order to put in the tube while their opponent turns them. Cal goes really overboard with this elimination, where Natalie apparently has permanent injuries due to this, from what she's stated over the years since, so this wasn't an elimination that I really liked. Anyways, Cara Maria and Marie beat Cam and Kaylee, and Polly and Natalie beat Cal and Brad, finally making it to the main house after being in the redemption house for a month. Kaylee tells Nelson that Brad was yelling at her, and the both of them confront Brad about being a bitch, and how his time is up, and Nelson moons Brad so he can kiss his ass. This next episode is a lot. Brad and Nelson are continuing to fight, where Brad threatens to beat his ass, and he thought that he was done teaching, but he has to teach Nelson a lesson. I think it's ironic that Nelson is bragging about how it's a new generation and Brad is washed up, where Brad outlasted most of the young bucks on the franchise. Bananas and Tony are happy that they are finally getting numbers with Camaria, Marie, Polly, and Natalie coming back. Cam is making fun of Kath and Brad for losing to Natalie, where she is proud to lose to the legend that is Camaria. Polly and Natalie are in the house for the first time in like a month and a half, and Natalie realizes that she needs to make up with Johnny, so they end up making up. Devin and Corey are talking about how they are in a good position. Devin's father left him on the show, and how he's told not to quit, which is why they are here, and Corey is still after Bananas after the last few seasons. They all go to the club, and Corey orders some pasta, where he took some of it home. Tony is talking about fighting for his daughters and how he came in with the new crop of youngins like Nelson and Corey, though he only worked with Corey on invasions, but Bananas changed things. Tony randomly throws out Corey's packaged pasta out the window while on the bus and left it off, where Corey is pissed off. I don't know why Tony thought that this was funny and nothing was going to be done at it. Honestly, it's rude as hell, and honestly, if someone did that to me, I probably would have thrown hands, but I wouldn't have done what Corey ended up doing. Anyways, Devin is trying to calm Corey down, remind Corey of his daughter and Devin's father, where Tony, like an asshole, breaks them up and puts his arm around Corey to mention that they're going to look for the pasta, looking for the pasta, knowing that it's nowhere in sight, where he threw it outside of the window while they were in the vehicle, so it's long gone. Clearly, he is provoking Corey and getting in his face again, and we see Corey kick his leg back to trip Corey, causing him to fall on the concrete floor, body slamming him. This is very unwarranted. I would definitely say that. Bananas is really and rightfully pissed off and goes after Corey, where Devin mentions that Corey slipped, and Corey denies that he body slammed Tony. The two of them are clearly lying, and the footage shows that Corey absolutely knew what he was doing. Bananas and Tony went into the interview room to keep them away from the group, and Bananas mentions that he has Tony's back all the way. Tony and Corey are sent to the hotel for the night, but things are nowhere near over between Bananas and Devin. Devin is lying by mentioning that Corey wanting to get Tony off of him, and people like Polly saw exactly what happened, so that isn't working. Sylvia and Joss are hoping that both teams get kicked off, and I really don't blame them for this mentality. Nelson goes to hound Bananas about what happened, and they get in one another's face, and Hunter has to separate them. Bananas mentions to Devin that without him, Devin doesn't exist, and they are all clearly trying to provoke Bananas here. Devin follows Bananas around the house to mention that Bananas has been shit-talking him while he wasn't in the house, but he won't say shit when he's in his face. Devin follows Bananas around the house, and Bananas snaps when he mentions that Devin's father passed away and how he should be home to mourn with his family, and mentions how he hopes that the apple doesn't fall from the tree, since Devin is such a piece of shit. Devin mentions that it is a low blow and he wants to punch Johnny in the face. Honestly, I'm on Bananas' side, which is rare for me to do, since when you provoke someone, follow them around and get in their personal space for over an hour, don't be mad when you get back a lashing with words. Devin decides to yell at Bananas the next morning, and Bananas says nothing, but he apologizes to Devin in the confessional. Tony and Corey arrive back in the house, and TJ arrives to the house to kick out Devin and Corey from the show due to Corey's violence. But despite everything, Corey and Tony do make up. Joss is mad that Corey is sent home and that Bananas insulted Devin's father, since Joss also lost his father, so it definitely hurt him. So he and Bananas are going at it, and Bananas mentions that Joss had no balls the entire season and finally spoke up, but TJ's just completely over it, and I don't blame him. Devin is shown the footage in the confessional room and realizes that Corey did intentionally kick Tony down. Devin definitely should not have been on the season. He was not in a good place, obviously with the event of his father's death, and the show already being a tense environment, especially with the divided and tense dynamic of the house, which he knew about due to admitting to reading spoilers at the time, before entering, and it just wasn't a good idea. Corey was barely in the house, and while I do agree with him on Tony being a rude, disrespectful mofo, body slamming someone on concrete is not the way to go. This would be the final end to his bad luck on the last few seasons. Since he won't be on the next few seasons, and things will change when he comes back. The next daily is Hits List, where it is a trivia challenge 33 feet above the water, where if they get it wrong, they will be knocked knocked off the ledge if they get the question wrong. And if they get it right, they get to choose to knock someone off. I do like this daily since it exposes all the allegiances and attention. Natalie and Polly win the daily, and Sylvia and Joss are over people getting eliminated and getting to come back. Johnny and Tony realize that no one is going to vote for them since they don't want to have to face the two of them in elimination. So Marie and Carmaria know that they are essentially screwed. Brad and Cal are still very salty about Nelson and Shane, where the latter chose them to go into elimination, as well as Brad and Nelson's fight. So they want to get rid of them in every season forward, where Cam and Kaylee think that they are playing the victim. Natalie asks Johnny if he's going to actually speak to Angela after this, and he mentions that he hasn't thought about after the game at all, since he's still in this, and I really don't care for this Johnny and Natalie miss, especially after their staged paparazzi shoot while Vendettos was airing. Marie is told by the Lavender Ladies that they are all voting for Tony and Bananas, since the two women are beatable in the finale, or in the final. Natalie is talking to Hunter and Nelson, and Bananas is over it, though I'm sure that nothing is happening here that indicates any sort of flirtation or whatever. And Bananas is ranting to Carmaria about the entire situation, which is really just a nothing burger in my opinion. Shane is over the arguing and the bickering between himself and Nelson, since he is close to a psychotic breakdown. Bananas and Tony are sent into the elimination, and they choose Joss and Sylvia to face in the elimination. Don't Trip Me Up is the elimination where the diver has to get the cart in a rank from the water, where the builder has to stack it up on a floating platform while they're in water. And the stack has to be built on 3 feet for 30 seconds. It's a fine enough elimination, but Joss and Sylvia do beat Bananas and Tony. They arrive to the Redemption House, and Johnny mentions that Natalie stole Nelson from Kaylee, and he's doing this to destroy their alliance. And Cam mentions outright that she thinks that he's lying. Cam is definitely going to play investigator, since she needs Kaylee to be focused. The daily is a purge, which is head roll, where they have to go to the middle of the spinning log to their partner to pin off the flags, and whoever gets last place will be eliminated. Polly and Natalie win their second consecutive daily, and Nelson and Shane are purged to the Redemption House. Kaylee is seething about the supposed Nelson and Natalie thing, and right when Nelson and Shane arrive to the house, Kaylee asks Nelson about being in bed with Natalie, and Bananas arrives in the room where he mentions that he did see them together. Nelson is confused as to where this is coming from, and Bananas mentions that Nelson and Hunter were all over Natalie. Kaylee doesn't want to speak to him, but she's over both him and Bananas using her as a pawn, and Cam tells him that she's been stressing about this for a while, so Kaylee has anxiety over it. Cam and Kaylee are outside, while Bananas is yelling at Shane through the window upstairs, and Shane is outside yelling to the window as well in the background. It's just very funny scenery, in my opinion. Kaylee does decide to forgive Nelson, and Bananas taunts Nelson about losing, after thinking that they are running things and the young bitches will never win the challenge, and Tony is laughing all of this up. It is the fourth and final redemption elimination, where they will all have a chance to play in the elimination, so there's no double cross, but whomever does choose the double cross can choose their opponent. So while there is a double cross, there's no icing anyone out. TJ announces that the Redemption House is over after this, and the two teams are coming back, with the other two going home for good, with Cal and Brad choosing Cam and Kaylee, with Bananas and Tony going against Shane and Nelson. They are playing two different games, unlike the other three redemptions, which is very suspicious in my opinion. I Got You Pegged is the elimination, where the first battle has to pick certain pegs with certain numbers, which will add up to 32, and put them up while they climb to the top. The guys feel good about this since Brad is a math teacher and an accountant, and I actually do like this elimination, but it does end up with Kaylee and Cam beating Brad and Cal, where most of the cast yell at the guys to help them lose. King of the Ring is the elimination that the guy pairs are doing. All of this, to me, in my opinion, seems like they did this so Bananas and Tony could most likely come back from redemption. Anyways, all of them are holding on to some big pole, and they have to push the other pair out of the circle. The elimination is also a cool one that we've only seen once, but it ends up with Bananas and Tony beating Nelson and Shane. So Nelson and Shane and Kyle and Brad are gone for good from the season. Brad and Cal had a good start of the season with winning a few dailies, but things fell apart for them after the first part of the season. Cal had his drama with Carmaria, which definitely got old. His feud with Polly was interesting, at least in this season, and he had his hookups with Faith and Ashley. Brad definitely had a few dramatic moments at the time, but him whining about his job and how he deserves to be there due to his kids was really annoying to watch, and he was drained after a while, so I'm not shocked he didn't return until All Stars, but thankfully he and Brittany are done after this. Nelson rekindled his relationship with Katie, which was less annoying this season, and he had his fights with people like Bananas and Brad, which was entertaining, but he came off as more cocky and arrogant this season. Shane was at his most unlikable and annoying this season, with his fights with people like Devon, Jose, and Bananas, though I did find the hair helmet stuff fun, and he was actually very self-aware about how much of a douche he was, but it was definitely grating at times. I am definitely looking forward to seeing him on All Stars 5, to see whether he will evolve or devolve. Cam and Kaylee are hoping to win their first 2 challenges back, like Natalie and Polly did when they came back. We move on to the next challenge, which is called Rolling Thunder, where they have to roll their giant boulder down to the finish line, but there's a ditch in the middle where they can get stuck. But it is a purge, so the last place team are eliminated from the game for good. It is not shocking that the all-women teams struggle in the daily, but we see Joss and Sylvia win the daily, and Cam and Kaylee are purged out of the game. Melissa and Kayla getting kicked off was the best thing to happen for Cam and Kaylee this season, as I do think they brought the best out of one another regarding their partnership, and I did enjoy their dynamics with one another on a friendship point of view. Cam, of course, had a not so big move, and she had some dynamics that had some great commentary and dramatic moments, though it was definitely small compared to the others. Katie was much less annoying and pathetic this season, especially coming off last season, and the showmance with Nelson didn't really bother me here, but her fight with Natalie still utterly disgusted me here, and she's still too emotional for her own good, so it's kind of just hard to feel bad for her overall. We go right to the penultimate daily, Painfully Wrong, where they have to answer trivia questions. It is the second trivia challenge of the season, where they usually do it once a season. And if they get the question right, they can send someone through the zones that have a bunch of voltages that they'll get zapped on. So the last one standing will win this daily. I don't play with stuff that involves shock or voltages, so I don't like this one. Joss and Sylvia win their second consecutive daily, and people are catching on to how untrustworthy Polly and Natalie are, since they aren't aligned to anyone, and it's the same BSBB narrative that spewed over the last few seasons, and will continue after this. And they also mentioned how Devon and Jose weren't aligned with anyone in the season as well. Hunter is annoyed with Ashley's yapping, and Tony speaks to Bananas about how fucked they are. Joss tells Hunter that Polly and Natalie have endurance, where he's not worried about the guys, so he essentially wants Polly and Natalie gone, though of course that's not what Hunter wants. Marie, Carmaria, and Natalie are talking, where Marie is crying about how there are no more alliances. We see Polly and Carmaria talking about sleeping in the same bed together, and they are getting very, very close. We go to the elimination, where Tony and Bananas are voted into elimination, and they have no choice but to face against Polly and Natalie. Apparently, this was their second elimination against one another, where the first elimination that they did a few days prior had some sort of malfunction, so they had to redo the elimination, and it's a different elimination, which is the one that made it onto the episode. And apparently, Tony and Bananas were beating Natalie and Polly in this. Some are alleging that they did this to save Natalie and Polly, though I don't know why they would want to save a rookie or sophomore pairing that was in the redemption house for most of the season, instead of the underdog team of Bananas and Tony. And seeing if Bananas was going to steal the money from Tony would have been more captivating than whatever Natalie and Polly had to offer. So I don't know if I believe the raking accusations with this. Anyways, it is announced that 4 people are going to the final, and the elimination is milk and cookies, where one person has to eat a bunch of cookies and drink a bunch of milk, but the partner has to hold their hands up in the air by a rope that has a bucket of milk on it. If someone stops eating, they are tied to their partner, or their tied partner has to fold, and vice versa. But if the person finishes the food, it is an endurance between the bucket holders. I'm not that shocked with this, since Natalie did do this competition on Big Brother 18, so I'm not surprised that she won this. But I didn't enjoy this elimination with all the vomiting and stuff, and like I mentioned, Polly and Natalie went against Bananas and Tony. I will say that it is interesting to watch Bananas not having the numbers in the season, and I did side with him at times, but I don't think he was necessarily likable. He did provide a lot of drama in the season and did compete well, despite not making it to the final and having everyone against them. It is interesting that Tony wasn't even supposed to be on the season at all, and he did have his fun commentary at times, but he did make up with Bananas, though I didn't feel that bad for him with the Corey situation. I know him having family issues caused him to not be on for the next several years, and based on how his recent return turned out, maybe he should have just retired for good after this season. We see Maria cuddling on Polly initially, who is playing with her hair, and the two of them are in the confessional bragging about how nothing took place. But Sylvia spilled the tea, honey, mentioning that they had sex, and she's making hand motions. And Maria realizes that Sylvia essentially ratted her out, and they're busted. We make it to the final, where TJ mentions that people's time as a group and individually will be counted, where one person will have the choice to split the money or keep it, but only the winning pair gets to make that choice. Just based on how both are talking in the confessionals, Polly is going to steal the money and Natalie is going to split the money, where she would be shocked if they didn't share it. Honestly, I really didn't care for the final, especially with them not showing certain parts of the final, and it just came off as pretty rigged in my opinion. Anyways, they all have grenades for the final where they can use it once during the final where they can sabotage people like last season. They climb down a ladder from the helicopter to the floor where Hunter falls on his back, but his adrenaline blocks it out, which is the first part of the final. Then we move on to the 4K1 where Polly outruns Natalie so he can have a lead, so he can determine if he stays in the lead to make the decision. It's way too soon in the final to make that decision, since you need to make sure that you are going to be a winning pair for sure. Natalie is initially second, but she ends up running the wrong way, so he expects her to be behind him, but she ends up arriving last, due to her realizing that she ran the wrong way. She's screwed up and she is crying, but it is Polly's fault for not waiting, and being very selfish at this point, where I think even he kind of realized that. The next leg is the final stand, where they have to stand on a small platform together, and whomever leaves first gets the largest punishment. Second to last, the second largest platform, so on and so forth. Maria and Marie are last in the challenge, and Marie decides to sabotage the other teams by outing Polly and Maria's affair, which they of course deny. Polly and Natalie make a deal with the other two where if they jump off, he won't throw a grenade at them, and Ashley rejects it since this isn't Big Brother. Polly even swears on his family that he won't use a grenade on them. But Sylvia knows that it isn't a good choice, but Joss wants to do it, so they essentially do it, and Ashley and Hunter wait for Joss and Sylvia to jump so they can get a lead. It is day 2 of the final where they have to eat a 32-course meal where they have to eat food from each countries of the trilogy that they travel to, and each plate represents 1 minute. Ashley and Hunter use a grenade on Joss and Sylvia, which has Sylvia in tears. Ashley and Hunter win this part with Joss and Sylvia getting second, Polly and Natalie getting third, and Maria and Marie getting last. Saying those two names together, such a tongue fuck. Anyways, the final leg is running into a cave, and Joss and Sylvia give Ashley and Hunter a grenade. Polly decides to not leave Natalie behind this time, so he learned Marie is screwing up on the run for Maria, and things are getting tense between the two of them. Polly and Natalie arrive first, Joss and Sylvia arrive second, Maria and Marie arrive third, and Hunter and Ashley arrive last. The final part is to walk across a hot coal to TJ, and Polly and Natalie use the grenade on Joss and Sylvia, where it's Natalie pushing Polly to use it, which obviously pisses off Joss and Sylvia. Of course, the two rant and yell at the BB working team, and Marie wants her to use her grenade on Polly and Natalie, but Maria refuses to use it. Why does she care? Oh, it's because she's fucking him by this point. But we are given additional context to this at the reunion, which I will delve into. Joss and Sylvia's ankles are tied where they have to find the keys to unlock themselves before revealing themselves. Maria and Marie reveal. They get 4th overall, and the top 3 were split by less than 2 minutes, which is very suspicious, with Natalie and Polly getting 3rd, Joss and Sylvia getting 2nd, and Ashley and Hunter getting 1st. Like I mentioned, all of this is very shady, since there were a few legs that did not make it to the air where Ashley and Hunter apparently did not do well on, but it's all alleged that they were not shown because they wanted a certain result. Ashley gets the lead over Hunter, which some also think is suspicious, by over 31 seconds, as she easily decides to take the money from Hunter, taking the million for herself, since he has belittled her, slut-shamed her, and threatened her and her family's life, and Hunter is bawling his eyes out, and he is seething in anger. They do show a bunch of flashbacks about it, and he apologizes to every team for not throwing the final, since he knew that this would happen. He mentions that she will burn in hell for all of this, and karma will follow her for the rest of her life. He mentions that he never called her a slut. The flashback shows otherwise. He calls her a fucking bitch who is fucking crazy as hell, and he walks without his fucking tennis shoes, where he wants tennis shoes, and we'll flip the shit out of this bitch. Sylvia is still crying in John's arms for this, as she's just focusing on them losing, and it's a crappy but emotional ending of the season. Cara, Maria, and Marie had an interesting dynamic throughout the season, since there were moments where they were genuine friends and other moments where they hated one another. Cara, Maria, and Cal's drama took up a lot of screen time in the season, though it got old. Though I didn't like how she treated Faith and Ashley, where neither one of those women owed her a damn thing. She got in a lot of drama this season, and the Polly stuff is actually underutilized here, which unfortunately won't last. Marie had her best showing here, with obviously making the final, but having to deal with the fact that her friends did not respect her enough as a game player and having an underdog run. This is her final season as I am recording this, and them taking a more competitive approach after the season caused her to be phased out. But it seems like on this current state of recording this, there is a setup for her to return via alumni and some appearances that she's been doing. Rewatching the season, I kind of found myself agreeing with Polly more often than not, outside of the whole Brittany and Jenna speech, which was just awful. He came in to be nice, agreeable, and have a good experience, only to get hazed and gaslit by the guys for a dumb reason, was clowned for having an equalizer on the first elimination, being a smaller man, spinning Kyle, and some of his clothing. He definitely had a big personality and wasn't afraid to call people out, while also being a good competitor, so it makes sense why he fit so well on the challenge. Natalie was at her most interesting and likable here, compared to Big Brother and her other challenge seasons. Obviously, she had to deal with the ramifications of being outed right before the season started by Kaylee, and she spoke up, got into drama, and didn't let people walk all over her. And this is probably Natalie at her most authentic. She definitely had interesting moments in the season and had to prove herself to her partner. It's just sad that she won't be on screen again after this, even on her next season. Joss and Sylvia was such a stretch as a pairing in my opinion, but despite all that, they played a good game. They were the only pair to have been there from the very beginning to the very end, never got eliminated, and the sketchy-ass final, which had timed results that weren't shown on screen, makes it believable that they could have won the season, but weren't given the title because they would have shared the prize, and they both have made comments about this in the year since. Sylvia had a bit of drama, mainly with Marie, and Joss had a showmance with Amanda and having a nickel put in him to talk to Bananas, but both of them were very under-edited on the season. Neither were the most interesting though, as Joss has one more season and Sylvia is done on the flagship as I'm recording this, but she'll move on to All-Stars. Hunter and Ashley came into the game damn near halfway through the season, was very annoying as hell, though I don't really have an issue with them being cast as a pair at all. I really wasn't impressed with their performance of the season, as they only won one daily, they never went into elimination, and they're protected by their alliance, and them just coming in halfway just really ruined it for me. But they did contribute to the drama with how they handle people like Johnny and Cara Maria, as well as one another. Obviously, they are most remembered for the money stealing moment, and they somehow managed to outdo what happened with Johnny and Sarah on Rivals 3, which says a lot. So, it is the reunion, and they get right to Ashley stealing the money from Hunter in the beginning of it. And Hunter is disappointed in himself, where he should have seen it coming, where he wouldn't have done it, though he mentioned after the finale that he did see it coming. So I guess he was lying then. Ashley mentions that everyone in the cast mentioned that they don't know how she could have worked with Hunter throughout the season, and that's what they were telling her. He mentions that the only people who agree with her choice is her Lavenue ladies, and Ashley mentions that after 30-30, Hunter said that he would never be with her because she slept with a black man. Hunter thinks that it is ridiculous because he slept with women with Corey and Nelson as they ran trains on women together. I've already mentioned my point about the whole Corey Black thing. I'm just going to move on from that. But it is a smart rebuttal, since why would he be disgusted by her sleeping with a black man while he shared women with a black man or a black man? Hunter regrets his slut-shaming of Ashley, and a bunch of people add their commentary, where some side with Ashley and some side with Hunter, and we learn that Ashley and Bananas made out as he tried to make fun of her weave, and she makes fun of his small package. Hunter claims to forgive Ashley though. Ashley shaded Devon and told her about needing to pick up her baby instead of finding people, and apparently the two of them had some sort of conversation where they met in real life, and Devon said that she didn't want to have to whoop her ass at the reunion, and they made up, but Ashley was still shit-talking her amongst a fan group. So Devon stands firm in the upcoming ass whooping and sends her fans on her, which is just so ridiculous. All of it is ridiculous. We move on to Cara Maria, also shit-talking a slut-shaming Faith and Angela in a group chat, and Faith is ready to get in that ass, and mentions that Cara Maria is hooked on dick. Apparently, Jose was doing some sort of music video and asked Natalie, Polly, and Cara Maria about it, and it somehow ended up with shit-talking. Cara Maria was talking about how everyone came off on the episode, and she mentioned names, which Angela screenshot and sent to Faith, and we see the two rookies yelling at Cara Maria, and Marie and Polly trying to separate it physically. We somehow see Hunter telling Amanda during the break that he's going to come for her every season forward, since he didn't like how she responded to the Ashley thing, and he did keep his word based on how he acted next season towards her. And he also told her that they aren't friends anymore, where both of them are yelling at one another, which is just a mess. Bananas calls the vet woman ran through, which is why he goes after the rookie woman, and this is just really gross. We learn that Kelly and Nelson are not together, where they broke it off in London. He was supposedly sending dick pictures to women while with her, and they were supposed to be on X on the beach together, but things fall apart. He is currently with Angela, and Angela is bragging about it to Kelly, which Angela will eventually reject, based on what we now know about the relationship, and her claiming that this is the worst relationship that she has ever been in. Polly threatens that he will rip Kyle's head off if they do anything physical together, and Kyle mentions that Polly didn't say anything to his face. It's really stupid, and no one believes that Polly's going to throw down, and he's now rocking this awful mohawk. Kyle mentions that he, Faith, and Ashley just saw their hookups as fun, so they didn't really care, and Cara Maria mentions that Kyle told her different things. We learn that Kyle and Cara Maria made up on the season, and made out during the season, and Polly knew that they hooked up. Kyle mentions that Polly is more in love with him than Cara Maria. A lot of the comments that the men made about Polly and his masculinity and his outfits and his looks and all that is very interesting in hindsight, knowing what we know now. Polly continues with his tough guy act, and I'm really over it. Banana shades Shane for being 38 and living with his parents. Well, Shane claims that he respects women, though Devon and Bananas makes faces indicating otherwise, and it says a lot. We get into the Shane and Devon fight where he apologizes for calling her a bitch, and she claims that he was justifying it while the episode was airing. Shane changed his Twitter handle to Devon's obsession. She said that he is so obsessed with arguing with a woman, so he should keep that energy towards a man. And Shane apparently sent lawyers to her. Come on, not even Polly did that when Devon said that to Polly on Big Brother. Come on, Shane. Devon tries to add his 2 cents, and Devon shut him down pretty quickly. The headbutt is talked about, and Marie mentions that she wanted Sylvia to headbutt her. Polly is down to fight. Zach shades Polly's lack of clothing. Katie outing Natalie is talked about, where Natalie says that she's not a lesbian, but she's bisexual. She changes her labels quite a few times regarding this. Natalie mentions that kids kill themselves for being outed all the time, and Katie still isn't remorseful. But Natalie still apologizes to Katie about her part in it, since she's a grown woman, and Katie just remains horrendous. Past the Gate is discussed, and Corey apologizes to Tony again, but he didn't like how it was handled, and he felt bad for Devin. But he thought that Tony should have shown more respect for him than to handle it the way he did. Tony claims that he thought they had more respect, and Tony claims that he had no malicious intent, and they're arguing about it, since Corey is mentioning that Tony is taking no accountability, and Tony really isn't taking accountability for it. Bananas and Tony talk about how they initially lied about Tony being slipped, and Corey and Devin mention that they are trying to stay in the game. We move on to Bananas and Devin's feud, and Devin looks like Banana states that Devin looking like a bum irritates him. Devin mentions that he has a bigger head and a bigger dick, and he calls Johnny a pussy where he'll beat his ass. And it's ironic that they are currently feuding more than ever now as I'm recording this due to season 40. Devin didn't like the low blow, and Banana still stands firm about how Devin was not mentally ready to be in the house, as his father just died, and he would be embarrassed by Devin's behavior. Devin gets into his face with Bananas, daring him to do something. Of course, Devin isn't going to do anything, and a bunch of the cast leaves to follow Devin, mainly the Lavender ladies and some of the young bucks. This is ridiculous, as Bananas never insulted his father. Bananas did not want to have this conversation on camera, and Ashley and Amanda are defending Devin. But Devin provoked the entire situation, and those two women are calling Bananas out. Even Brad walks off, which actually shocks me, where Zach mentions that he would have done worse if Devin followed him for an hour and a half. Shane admits that it is an OG move to talk to people off camera, so he does think that Bananas is being genuine here, and it's interesting that Shane's defending Bananas in this element. Tony does defend Bananas because he himself also lost his father, and Bananas says that he did apologize to Devin off camera, and it's fine, so he thinks that Devin is putting on a show at the reunion. The Lavender Ladies and the Young Bucks are mad at Tony for not defending him, though Tony literally was defending Devin, but they walked off before that happened, and they're telling Devin that that Tony is not his friend. Apparently, Maria made some slick comments which set Amanda off because of it. Devin finally speaks to Bananas after 45 minutes backstage, and he wants Bananas to apologize on camera, where Bananas mentions that off-camera apologies are more genuine, but he does apologize on camera, though it really doesn't change anything. Maria and Amanda go back and forth. The Lavender Ladies brag about not being losers. Maria asks Ashley if she's sharing the money. Clearly, Ashley isn't sharing the money. Amanda mentions that she's mad that Ashley fucked Kyle, though Maria is happy with Polly. The Brad and Brittany thing is talked about, where he did not feel comfortable with being in a long-distance relationship with Brittany after the season, and he felt that something was off before Polly even said anything. Devin calls out Big Brother for being such a bunch of liars, and this will continue with him on Double Agents. And Polly is over the BB stigma, since the UK people were so welcomed, but they are not. And Natalie calls out everyone for being liars, so they're just over it. Jose and Yvonne mentioned that Brittany did say that she still loved Chuck. Brad and Brittany have a few issues, or they had a few issues before the season. So when they hung out after the show, they kind of just mutually broke up. Brittany calls via video chat, and she mentions that she and Brad had awesome sex, but he broke up with her right after having sex with her as he was dropping her off at the airport, and Brad is so messy for this, and she is drinking green wine. Then she goes after Devon about how she hurt her feelings, where they DM'd one another, where Devon told Brittany that her commentary on the show will be worse, and she said that she's batshit crazy, where Brittany just needs to own it. She says that she will love Chuck and Brad forever, but she finally got her closure before she leaves. Maria and Polly's affair-turned-relationship is discussed, and Sylvia told everyone about it, apparently. Polly called his girlfriend and told her everything right after the season, so they broke up. Right after. We know that a huge scandal happened with the three of them right after War of the Worlds filmed, which we will get more into then. And then they admit that they're in an open relationship. Remember this for when all the fuckery happens. And then Maria tattooing herself on Polly's thigh is discussed, where Amanda thinks it's fucked up, and she did that after Cal got his girlfriend tattooed on his leg. Apparently, Polly told his roommate in college, back in the late aughts and early 2010s, that he will fuck Maria one day, and he's watched every season of the show. Maria and Marie's relationship is discussed, where it was up and down, and Maria thought that Marie made a contrived effort to be her partner, with fighting with her on social media, and Amanda goes on about not liking Maria. We know that this has since changed on 40, and it was mainly due to Polly and Devon, essentially telling her to. Angela talks to Cam. She talks about Cam recording. No, she talks about how Maria recorded Angela's fight with Cam on some sort of live, and Faith mentions that Faith was annoyed that Maria claimed that Faith tried to fuck her, and she's offended by it. Marie apparently broke her ankle right before the final, and they knew that they were losing, where they apparently had a discussion about wanting Polly and Natalie to win the season since they couldn't, so Marie went back at that with the grenade, and that definitely adds some context. Cam's big move is discussed, where she and Natalie are going back at it because she was being underestimated, and she wanted to be reminded why she's killed Cam, and I really don't care. Maria and Angela are arguing about wanting to fight. Cam and Angela are arguing with one another about wanting to fight with one another, and I'm not giving this attention. Zach regrets calling Amanda a whore, and Jenna, who is in the audience, apparently told him to not call women that, and Amanda and Ashley call out the double standards about the women being bitches, but men like Bananas are being rewarded for acting the same way, where Amanda is tired of being talked down to. Amanda mentions that she had a bomb to drop at the reunion, which she tweeted, but she's not going to do that, since it could ruin relationships and lives. Only for her to tweet about it several times in the years since, where no one gave a fuck. Supposedly, Jenna and Tori slept with one another in Dirty 30, and she brought it up yet again this year, after both parties being long since married to other people. Tony does propose to his girlfriend, Alyssa, and I think they got married a year ago. Holy fuck is this a long season? And this is the longest review I've done on the challenge by at least 30 to 40 minutes. And the episodes weren't even 90-minute episodes yet. Anyways, you could kind of tell that things were getting a bit too crazy with the overemphasis on drama and the competitive format issues really just being non-existent, where apparently they changed producers after this, where apparently the people who produced this season were producing the Bad Girls Club, and with the change in producers, it caused a lot more focus on the competitive elements. They finally ended the to be continued stuff and all that. Anyways, this season is a prime drama season, and there's a lot of good real drama here that really doesn't exist anymore on the challenge. You have a lot of strong Era 4 people and a lot of the Era 3 people where you can kind of tell that the vibes of them is just different compared to a lot of the people that would debut after this point in Era 4. This season is one that isn't the most enjoyable to watch live, though a part of you can't turn away from the train wreck. Anyways, a decent amount of the cast will either not be regulars anymore, they'll do a season here or there, or they just won't be on the show at all. Where I do think that they decided to focus more on the international people, which honestly I think led the show to a bad path. But anyways, we're getting to War of the Worlds 1, which fixed a lot of the issues with this season, but I'm going to discuss why I feel more and more mixed on that season as time goes on. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with more commentary. Bye!